So the Jacksonville Jaguars were coming off a huge Week 9 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. They improved to 3-6 on the season. They're going to be traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to have a tough Week 10 matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are actually coming off a big win over the Tennessee Titans in an overtime victory in which they came back in that game. And the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs, both of these teams honestly are at different points in the season with how they are. The Chiefs are sitting at 6-2. The Jags, like I said, are sitting at 3-6. And it looks like the Jags are trying to regain some kind of momentum in which they kind of had earlier in the season. And the Chiefs are looking to continue to build on their dominance, sitting at 6-2. So in today's preview matchup, I'm going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm always going to talk about the opponent first. Then I'll talk about the Jaguars on both sides of the ball. And at the very end, I'll kind of give a verdict. And I do want to apologize in advance because this video is on a time restraint, so I really don't have as much time to, edit this video, make it look super nice in quality. So I appreciate you guys for understanding, but let's actually talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. So like I said, with the Chiefs, they're currently sitting at 6-2 right now. They're the number 2 seed in the AFC, and I expect that to continue to rise because the Chiefs are just that damn good of a team. But also, now that Josh Allen in Buffalo has an elbow injury, I'm sure that Josh Allen's going to be sidelined for the next couple of weeks. So now the Chiefs have an opportunity to secure the number 1 seed and keep that number 1 seed throughout the rest of this season in order to get that first round bye. But with the Chiefs, let's actually talk about what they've done this season and where they rank statistically speaking. They're number 1 in points per game, number 2 in yards per game, number 2 in third down percentage, number 23 in rushing yards per game, but that's kind of canceled out when they're that great of an air attack, and they're number 1 in passing yards per game at 311. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not as strong, obviously, as they are on offense, but still respectable defensively speaking. They're number 20 in the NFL in defensive points per game. They're number 20 in defensive yards per game, number 11 in defensive third down conversion percentage, number 5 in defensive rushing yards per game, so great job stuffing the run game, and also they're number 24 in defensive yards per game, so the secondary's got to do some improving. And also we got to talk about quarterback Patrick Mahomes, clearly the face of the NFL, or the second face of the NFL behind Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Patrick Mahomes is a special type of quarterback. He's a once-in-a-generation. We've never seen a quarterback, even with the skill set, to see what he does, running the ball, evading pressure, making something out of nothing, throwing the ball with a level of accuracy. This guy could bounce the ball between his legs, and it would still be a completed pass. Patrick Mahomes does incredible things, and I think the first time I really said, you know what, Patrick Mahomes is the real deal was when he did it to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2018 in his first year as a starter as a unanimous MVP, or maybe he wasn't unanimous, don't quote me on that, but he just obliterated Jacksonville, and I said, yep, this guy's the real deal, and sure enough, here we are. 3-4 years later, Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. Mahomes this season, let me actually get to him. 2,605 yards in the air, which is number 1 in the NFL. 21 touchdowns, number 1 in the NFL. 6 interceptions, tied for 18th in the NFL, a 75.4 quarterback rating, scale of 0 to 100, second in the NFL, and he has a 66.2 completion percentage. People were concerned heading into the season, is Patrick Mahomes going to have a significant drop-off without Tyreek Hill, one of the most explosive receivers in the NFL, who's currently still leading the NFL in receiving yards as of right now, even on a completely different team. Patrick Mahomes has shown no slippage, no drop-off. He is still Mahomes boy. Let's talk about other Kansas City players on offense and other skill position players such as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 69 attempts this season, rushing 293 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4.2 yards a carry. He's doing some great things. He obviously hasn't technically lived up to the first round hype, but he does his job and he does exactly what Andy Reid in this offense asks of him. And I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still a very good and serviceable back. Let's talk about another guy in the backfield in Jerick McKinnon, a nice speedster guy. He can change the pace as well too. He does some good things in the backfield, 32 attempts rushing, 123 yards, 3.8 yards a carry. Jerick McKinnon is a guy who can go from 0 to 100 real quick. Travis Kelce, obviously the best tight end in football. 57 receptions, 659 yards, and 7 touchdowns. We all understand just how special and talented of a guy like Travis Kelce is. Juju Smith-Schuster, TikTok star himself, 44 receptions, 582 yards, and 2 touchdowns. MVS Marquez Valdez-Scantling hasn't really had that much of an impact on the Chiefs offense, but he's a good and solid veteran addition to this core. 23 receptions for 381 yards, but McCole Hardman, have a season, man. He's having a solid and productive season, and we know the type of guy that he is. 25 receptions, 297 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But Kadarius Toney's a guy that the Chiefs traded for at the deadline. I'm excited to see how the Chiefs are going to utilize him because I feel like he was just completely underutilized in New York. He didn't have a lot of stability, and yeah, Kadarius Toney's a little bit of a weird guy, I'm not going to lie. But if he's on the field with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy on that offense, he's going to be explosive. Kadarius Toney is going to have an absolute revitalization in his career, to put it nonetheless. And also sticking with the Chiefs offense really quickly, I mean, Creed Humphrey, their center, has been one of the best centers in the NFL this year, statistically speaking. He's done some phenomenal things. I'd be extremely surprised if he was not an all-pro center this year. Talk about Orlando Brown, one of the most sought-out tackles in the NFL just a few seasons ago from the Baltimore Ravens. And the Chiefs had revitalized that offensive line in order to protect their franchise quarterback after we saw Patrick Mahomes get obliterated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, they're a relatively pedestrian group. They're not as potent as the Chiefs offense, obviously, but they have a lot of great players on this Chiefs defense. You look at guys like obviously Trent McDuffie, the rookie that they took this season, and he's a guy who I had a lot of high praise for coming out of the draft this past season out of Washington. And then you look at guys in the secondary like Justin Reed, Trevor Lawrence's worst nightmare in week 1. At Houston last year, Justin Reed was a phenomenal safety for the Houston Texans for years. And another guy I wasn't too high on, but he definitely has some potential, and he hasn't really done much of anything this season so far in his rookie season, is going to be defensive edge out of Purdue, George Karlaftis. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce his name, but I was doing a lot of research on him out of the draft before, and he's got a lot of potential. I wasn't extremely high on him, but you know what? Hey, maybe he can turn into something one day. Now transitioning into the Jaguars. The Jaguars, like I said, are currently sitting at 3-6 right now. They're about 2 games back from the number 1 seed in the AFC South, trying to compete right there, and the Chiefs definitely helped with that Titans loss last week. And the Jaguars are looking to build some kind of momentum, but let's see where they've actually stood statistically speaking so far this season. So on the offensive side of the ball, the Jacksonville Jaguars are number 18 in yards per game, number 18 in points per game, number 8 in the NFL in third down conversion percentage. They're converting nearly 44% of their third down attempts. That is a great clip where you want this young offense to be at. They are number 7 in the NFL in rushing yards per game. Thank you very much, Mr. Travis Etienne. And they're number 17 in rushing yards, and they're number 17 in passing yards per game. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. The Jaguars are a relatively pedestrian group there as well too, statistically speaking. Number 11 in defensive points per game, number 16 in defensive yards per game, number 15 in third down conversion percentage, so a middle of the pack team there. Number 7 in defensive rushing yards per game. So the Jaguars are doing a great job there with the front 7, limiting the opponent's rushing yards, and they're number 22 in defensive yards per game in the air passing. So the Jaguars, they've got a lot of work cut out for them, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs. And talking about quarterback Trevor Lawrence, aka Mr. Sunshine, he's had a significant improvement from his rookie season, and obviously there's been some bumps along the way. Trevor Lawrence has not been perfect this season, but you've seen a lot of improvement, and he had one of his best games this past season versus the Las Vegas Raiders last week. Trevor Lawrence was 25 of 31 for 235 yards, 1 touchdown. He had a QBR of 109, and he had 6 carries for 53 yards. Trevor Lawrence is the only quarterback in the NFL this season to have 3 or more games this year with an 80+% completion percentage, so great job there by Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, he hasn't been perfect, but he's done enough to get the Jags to where they need to be, and Trevor Lawrence is only going to continue to improve. But Trevor Lawrence, where he sits kind of right now throughout the middle part of this season, Trevor Lawrence right now has 2,075 yards in the air, which is 9th among all NFL quarterbacks, 11 touchdowns, tied for 14th, 6 interceptions, tied for 18th alongside Patrick Mahomes. He has a 50.9 quarterback rating, which is 17th in the NFL, and has a completion percentage of 64.3%. Like I said, you've seen the improvement from him. But let's talk about running back 1 now, most explosive player on the Jaguars offense, next to Jamal Agnew and Travis Etienne himself, especially once James Robinson got traded to the New York Jets. That opened the floodgates for Travis Etienne to take in all of the running back 1 responsibilities, and he has been explosive for the Jaguars in this offense. He's been amazing, to say the least. He is number 5 in the NFL right now in rushing yards as of right now, doing some great work. Travis Etienne, 120 attempts, 680 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry and he has a total of 854 scrimmage yards this season. Travis Etienne has done some phenomenal things. Then let's actually talk about wide receiver one, the guy who the Jaguars overpaid for this offseason in wide receiver Christian Kirk. And Kirk has had a very solid season for the Jaguars, considering the money that we're paying him and the money that he's going to be getting next season, especially once Calvin Ridley gets to this team after serving his suspension. Christian Kirk this season has 43 receptions, tied for 16th in the NFL, 574 yards, 15th in the NFL, 5 touchdowns, tied for 8th among all wide receivers, and he's averaging 13.3 yards per catch, 30th in the NFL. Christian Kirk has played like a very productive and solid receiver this season. I'm extremely pleased with what I've seen from him, and that, ability to alleviate some of the pressure off of other receivers and other skill position guys like Evan Ingram, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, and to kind of give Trevor Lawrence a lot more of a reliable weapon. Now, kind of getting into my final verdict for the Jaguars, this is the only game this week and the only game this season that I'm going to go into with no expectations. I always go into the Jags game every single week thinking, okay, even if I don't pick us to win, there's a possibility of us winning. I have zero expectations for this game. We're playing one of the best dynasties of this generation. We're playing one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in the midst of his prime at Arrowhead Stadium. Patrick Mahomes, you can't say enough about him. I just genuinely have no expectations. I have the Chiefs winning this game, and I have the Jaguars covering the spread. I have the Chiefs winning 27-21. Jaguars will cover the spread. It's at 9.5, but Jaguars offense has got to be explosive if they want to win this game, or the defense has got to play out of their mind if the Jaguars want to win. I do think it'll be a one-possession game, but when push comes to shove, I believe in Andy Reid. I believe in Eric Bieniemy, Patrick Mahomes, and this offense. Mahomes can go 7 points, 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the fourth quarter, and he could be down by 2 scores, and I trust Patrick Mahomes to do Patrick Mahomes things. I just expect that out of him. That's just the realist in me. Obviously, I want the Jaguars to win this game. I hope the Jaguars win this game, but I have zero expectations for the Jaguars to win this game. Let me just put it like that. The Chiefs are just that damn good. But Jaguar fans, Chiefs fans, and NFL fans, please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you guys have winning this game? And also drop a score prediction in the comments down below. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, man, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button to stay tuned for more NBA, UCF, and of course, Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure y'all go follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.